Bonjour, mes amis, and welcome to this very exciting webinar where myself and one of our co-founders, Kashif Khan, are going to be talking about new genes available within your report, or more specifically, available within the DNA Way app. So I'll start off by encouraging you, if you currently do not have the app, I want you jumping into your app store of choice, be that Google or Apple. We're putting both links in the chat. You can click there and get the app. And once you've logged into the app and associated your account with your app, then you will be able to see these results. Now, for everyone's awareness, these results, you had to have taken your test beginning of 2023 or forward. So if there's anyone on this webinar tonight who took their test, so close tonight, audience, test in 2022, we'll be reaching out end of year with options for you. And I'm really, really excited to be going over this with you all today. Can I ask where people are calling in from? I want to talk to the audience a little bit. Kashif is on his way, but he's stuck in traffic. So I'm just going to engage with you until that point. Get excited for these genes. Yeah. Oh, fun. We have some Canadians, some Americans. Love this. Okay. Oh, oh, we have Australia. I'm so grateful when this becomes like an international affair. UK. Oh gosh, you guys are all over it. I love it. Quebec. I love it. Wonderful. Germany. Yes. Hey, Germany. It makes me really happy when we see from far away. I love this. Yeah. Um, oh, perfect. Wonderful, guys. This has been so wonderful. And another Aussie is here too. This is great. Oh my goodness, all over the world. Guys, this is wonderful. Yeah. So tonight, what we're going to be doing is going over all the different genes that we're adding. I'm going to give you a bit of an outline right now. So we're adding 6 new genes that will be available in the app. Two of these are going to be incorporated into our interpretations. So we're going to be looking at one that's incorporated into some cardiovascular interpretations and one that's going to be included within vitamin D interpretations. The other 4 genes, they are standalone, and so they will be reported on within different reports. And tonight, as we talk through the genes, we'll also let you know where in the app these genes can be found. And all of these genes were picked for some really strong reasons. They are genes that really help fine tune and give perspective to people's health. Yeah, so I think, guys, what will the reports be on the website is what Ron is asking. Not right now. So eventually they will be things that can be incorporated into the website, but those updates will be coming at a later point. Right now, the genes will just be available through the app. So I would encourage you, Ron, and whoever else is on the call to please download the app so that you have access to them. Yeah, and I'm seeing some okays there. Yeah, and so I'm seeing sometimes within the comments that people prefer the portal, and that's very okay. This will come out via the portal eventually, but not right now. So I just want to make sure everyone's on the same playing field with that. Okay? Yeah. All right, guys. Yeah. So um why don't we how about the practitioner reports? So someone is asking if the genes are going to be available in the practitioner reports. For those practitioners that are in DNAU, and so this is our Certified Functional Genomic Practitioner course. This is where we house all of our training and insight. We do have training on these genes in DNAU. But right now, the clinician reports are not updated. They will be updated, though. So, yes, the clinician report that is within the app that has been updated and that will be updated. So, if you're a clinician that uses the app, the summary report there has been updated. Okay. All right. I'm loving the excitement. I'm loving all the anticipation here. Yeah. Yeah. Um, and I'm seeing a few comments that there's been a few issues with accessing the app, and don't hesitate to reach out to us. We will be asking you to email CEO@thednacompany.com. Okay. Yeah. Looking forward to this. Okay. Guys, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to get started here, at least in starting to introduce the new genes. Kashif and I have had a lot of conversations about them, so I'm confident that when Kashif joins, he'll be able to jump right into the mix of this all. Okay. All right. Um, yeah, and for those that are wondering when that cutoff date was, if you were tested in 2023, so this is January 1, 2023, moving forward, okay, you'll have access to all this new data. If you were tested prior to that, so 2022 or before, then look to your inbox at a later date, or probably December at some point. We will email you with how you can get access to all this new information. Okay. All right, guys. So, with no further ado, I'm not talented enough to pretend to know how to drum roll, but virtual drum roll, we're going to start with some of the new gene updates. So, the first gene that we're introducing is a gene called MLXIPL. And what that alphabet soup tells us, this is something that will be incorporated into the cardiovascular reports. And this is a gene that influences how your liver receives carbohydrate. What am I talking about? That sounds a little bit crazy. So, we know that when we consume a lot of carbohydrate, a lot of sugar, right, the body is saying, hey, I have a lot of energy here. Maybe I can't use it all at once. So, I'm going to store that. And part of what the liver does is working at storing that. It will take all of that sugar and the sugar that you don't use, it's going to convert it into different types of fat so that your body can store it. You have energy for a rainy day, right? And part of the tricky with this, especially given we live in a world where people are eating more sugars than ever, at least, especially when we look at our ancestors, far more sugar than any of those guys ate, is that we know a lot of people are storing a lot of their sugars as fat. And unfortunately, for many, because of that push to store all those sugars as fat, we're starting to see the liver. We're starting to see fat deposits on the liver. It's created this whole new classification of an unwell pathology. It's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. The reason we qualify that, once upon a time, we only really used to see fatty liver disease in those who had substance issue or alcohol abuse issues. And now we're starting to see that in people who arguably just consume too many sugars, perhaps some sugar use issues, right? And so, what this gene helps educate us is if you have a suboptimal presentation, namely if you have a C as in Charlie allele, what that can translate to is you're going to be storing that sugar. You're at greater risk for shifting those sugars into triglycerides and at a markedly higher rate for developing fatty liver disease when you have a diet that is really high in sugar and really high in alcohol. So this can be one of those really interesting genes that, especially if you go to the doctor and the doctor is like, hey, your triglycerides are really, really high, this can help fine tune one of the reasons those triglycerides might be really high. Do you have that propensity? In my mind, this triggers a few different things if someone has a suboptimal presentation. First and foremost, we need to be talking about how much sugar they're taking in through their diet. And we do need to be talking about how much alcohol they're drinking, because we know, especially with those suboptimal presentations, this is really going to fuel that shift to triglycerides and put the liver at risk for that non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. What this also tells me to do for people, and again, this is as a doctor, this is as someone that works with patients, and so I would encourage you to talk to your provider, be that us or be that your family physician, to say, hey, I want to be doing annual checkups. I want to make sure that my liver's in check, that my liver's doing well, and that I, from a cardiovascular perspective, am not making large amounts of this, right? So that changes the annual screening that I'm going to be doing, and it changes the proactive health that I'm doing, right? Oh, and speak of the wonderful devil, here he is, audience, just in the nick of time. Hey, Kashif, how you
Good. How you
doing?
doing?
Glorious. How you doing? How's Toronto
I'm right.
traffic?
Well, this is actually Mississauga traffic. It's a very
Oh.
specific kind of traffic.
I'm sure just as scary as Toronto traffic.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I'm good. But we got, I know we have, I saw the notes on what you did and the work you're doing on the genes, and it was pretty awesome. And I actually, everyone doesn't know,
Mm.
but Krista actually took the time to walk me through some of
Yeah.
the genes that she's been researching, and then the whole team's been researching. It is mind blowing that
Yeah.
there's never an end to this learning, this human body and all that's in it. It just keeps
No.
going and going and going. And
Yeah.
so that's it. So,
Yeah.
I sorry, I interrupted you, but
No, that's okay. Yeah.
okay.
Well, I think like I would love because I think what I just offered the audience, and we have an audience from all over the world. It's really cool. We have people in Australia and Germany and the UK. But what I've offered the audience is a description of MLXIPL, right? That happy alphabet soup that influences triglycerides, right? And you
Well,
and I think when we were discussing this, got really excited insofar as like it can really refine how people are thinking about their diet, but especially from that cardiovascular wellness perspective. It's new insight into how you can be tracking your health, right?
yeah. And this part's awesome because when it comes to diet, um, we've been talking about things like metabolic rate, enzyme activity, etc.
Mm,
Now this is like clinical level information to take. What would have been general, you're good on keto, you're good on vegan, the kind
yeah,
of comments we were making, which were very useful, right, to help people.
yeah,
But now we're able to dig another layer deeper, and that
mhm,
fine tuning will keep happening.
yeah,
I know that you also did work on the UCP gene. It's a gene that already exists in the report, right?
yep.
But I know you dug deeper into what we can extract from it.
Mhm.
Fine, you were telling me on the phone, it was awesome. So maybe we can dig into that too.
Yeah, yeah. So this is an audience favorite, right? You and I know people love this, and so we are starting to offer it within the report. So audience, UCP1, it stands for uncoupling protein. It's a process that will be happening in your mitochondria, and it essentially helps liberate energy. And I want to make sure we're talking about this in terms of not necessarily good or bad, just different. So some people are going to be really, really, really good at liberating energy within the mitochondria. Other people are not going to be so good at liberating this energy within the mitochondria, right? And how this is going to be influencing you is those that are really good at liberating and using and leveraging that energy, they're going to have a higher basal metabolic rate. They're going to be happier to consume those calories. They're going to run a little bit warmer compared to those that are less happy to liberate that energy. They conserve that energy. They're going to have a bit lower of a metabolic rate. And right, this is, remember, metabolic rate, we're talking about when you're just lying on a couch and doing nothing different. How many calories does your body need to be okay? Right. And so this is saying that those people, right, they're burning less calories, burning less energy, and they're unfortunately a little more resistant to losing weight, right? Back in the day when we didn't have a lot of access to food, right? We're talking ancestral time. These people would have been the superstars
Yeah.
because they would have been able to eat things and hold on and be very conservative with that energy. Now, again, that we live in the world of excess and surplus, this is a little bit less advantageous. We don't necessarily want to be holding on to it the same way, right, Kashif?
Yeah, we wonder why would our body even have these potential variants? Why?
Yeah.
Why don't we all just do it? Because the things that today may potentially be to your disadvantage used to be the beneficial trait. And that
Hmm.
variant or that change was something that was actually helping somebody thrive and survive. Now the
Yeah.
context has changed.
Hmm.
But this is the whole point is once the genes are understood, once your unique result is understood, now you know what your habits are. Now you know when it comes to diet. And so when you go on a general, here's how many calories per day are the right amount, is that true for you? Right? We can now actually ask that question. What is
Yeah.
right for you? And so for some people, it's actually a little bit less.
Yeah.
And so that might just mean more nutrient dense foods. You can still get the volume and satiety without the calories. It
Yeah.
might be being a little bit more careful. It might be snacking isn't the right best idea, but that whole net result of your day in terms of calories means so much more than somebody who's just like powering through and you're like, I don't get it. I just look
Yeah.
at a cheesecake and I gain weight, but they can eat the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's going on for some people. So that's a really cool insight.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm seeing a few questions around like does this regulate temperature, right? It is strongly associated to brown fat, which is one of those metabolically active fats. And with that, especially those that are more I'll say happy to liberate their energy. Some report running a little bit warmer because they're releasing that energy as heat, right? I don't know if you per se would notice it because you're one gene or the other, right? You kind of live this way or you don't, but you are releasing that energy as heat. And so that may shift your experience of warmth within the world, right? And so someone's asking, what are the optimal alleles? I'm going to give them in terms of those that hold on to their energy and those that let it go. So those that hold on to it, those that are going to be burning a little bit less are the AAs, okay? Those that are happy to release it, have that higher thermogenic activity, those are the GGs. Okay? Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And now the one thing that I thought was really cool here, when you talked to me the other day,
Yeah.
um, we've been looking at vitamin D from the perspective of its nutrient value and how to dose it, the frequency, how many times per day.
Mhm.
And we think of vitamin D as this really important, probably the most important nutrient in the body.
Mhm.
Uh, but there's so many things it does beyond just the winter blues and beyond hair and skin and bone that we don't think about.
Mhm.
And then sometimes you have these anomalies where like you think you're doing everything right, but it's not working, and there's a traffic jam of sorts. And this is where you discovered another cool application, which is if we understand vitamin D a little deeper, we actually know how it affects our cardiovascular health and cholesterol levels.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
this is this interaction. We know what's going on, but
Mhm.
nobody hears about that at the doctor, or nobody talks about
Yeah.
the doctor. So where does that interaction happen?
Yeah. So, audience, remember that your body will make, if we're talking about not supplementing, we're just simply talking about using skin and sunlight. Your body is making vitamin D by taking sunlight, using that energy, and kind of converting into more active forms. When we ask the question of where are we starting from, what are those base products that eventually get converted into vitamin D, that first product is cholesterol. Okay. And so, what we're doing, what we're adding to the panel is a gene that speaks to how efficiently are you pushing cholesterol towards making vitamin D versus how efficiently are you pushing that cholesterol towards other things. Okay. And I'm going to be very specific. And this is helpful, especially for those, I know, Kash, if I mentioned we have people from all over the world, and we know that not all light is created equal insofar as, up in Canada, we don't necessarily have the sun angles that people, for example, in Florida have to be making it. But for those that are in the world where they have sun that can help support making their vitamin D, we're talking about UVB rays. And for those that are exposed, some people, they're not going to have access to sufficient cholesterol to optimize how that is going to be converted. Do they have those base cholesterols in order to shunt towards that vitamin D cycle? So you might be someone who lives in Florida, you have the best access to the sun, but if you have genes that don't allow that access to that cholesterol to start that conversion, that further triggers you to ask, maybe I need to consider supplementation. That's maybe why, even though I'm all day in the sun, my vitamin D levels aren't at a level that my doctor's happy with, right?
And even that question of, okay, I got some blood work and I've been told a level.
Mhm.
Even to interpret what does that level mean for you is not the
Yeah.
same answer for everybody. And so some
Yeah.
people say vitamin D levels are no good or they're fine, and I have all the symptoms. I have all the symptoms of bone issues, mood
Hmm.
issues. I live in the winter. Why would they be good? Then you start to look at the genes, you understand that there's that number is just what can be found.
Hmm.
How did you get there? Right?
Hmm.
Then there's people that are like blood work looks horrible, but they feel fine,
Yep.
right? And so their ability to utilize the receptors are so good. And so this is where I would say, if you're in a program with someone like Dr. Krista or anyone on the DNA company side, you can now take blood work from
Mhm.
your doctor or whatever you've been working on and interpret it a lot deeper than just a number, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was a cool insight because it's not just about looking at vitamin D levels, but what else is it doing in my body that I didn't even think about, right?
Yeah.
So now there's a gene that was in the report that I think showed up in the sleep section.
Hmm.
And to me, this part was really exciting about the sleep. This is actually the first thing we talked about
Hmm.
when we met the other day.
Yeah.
Uh, because I've had this question come up. Uh, I would say, I don't know, few hundred times over the
Hmm.
last couple of years,
Hmm.
around people talking about like chronotype
Hmm.
and their
Hmm.
sleep pattern.
Hmm.
And why is it that some people are night owls and some people need to be up in the morning? And, me, like, please don't wake me up in the morning because my brain won't function. I can tell you that straightforward, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I am working at night. I get my best ideas when the sun goes down, right?
Hmm.
And that's when I
Hmm.
start scribbling and typing. And so, and my answer used to be no, there's no known genetic correlation. I
Hmm.
see it because we have clients and friends and family that all seem to have a very clear profile,
Yeah.
but I can't correlate that genetically. Now, here comes along Dr. Krista, who starts digging into, what these genes actually do. And we
Hmm.
learn a gene that we were already working on does
Yeah.
something else, which we can actually explain the chronotype, which is really cool. So how does that
Hmm.
work?
Yeah. So, guys, we're talking about a gene called CRY1. And what CRY1 does is it engages effectively with a whole set of enzymes, a whole set of genes that determines the length and the stability of your circadian cycle, right? Circadian cycle is really that beautiful rhythm that tells body, hey, wake up, and hey, go to sleep, be tired and go to sleep. And so those with more optimal presentations, they tend to have better ability for longer sleeps, right? And they also have better ability for kind of the maintenance of the sleep. Additional to that, and this is kind of what Kashif is talking about when it comes to the chronotype, are you a morning bird? Are you a night owl? Those with suboptimal presentations, or maybe we'll call them night owl presentations, right? Um, they tend to be people that very naturally, based on this gene, want to be staying up later and want to be waking up later compared to the morning bird presentation, where they're the ones that are very naturally and happy, like right up in the bright of the sun in the morning, and then happy to go to bed, as that sun goes down after that point. Yeah, so we now have some insight to be able to say genetically speaking, yeah, you are a night owl, or genetically speaking, maybe not so much. Yeah.
And that's so cool because it helps people sort of validate how they feel.
Yeah.
And there's a reason, and it
Yeah.
also helps you structure because you might be fighting against a natural in trait, right? That's innate in you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, as an entrepreneur, I'm free to do what I want, I guess. So, but so
Yeah.
I'm kind of pushed, but I see the people around me like, that's not what you're supposed to do. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the cool thing about this, I want to be very clear about it. There is like there is research that says, Kasha, if you're a night owl, can you become a morning bird? And the answer is yes, right? Like you can set up a structure, you can set up discipline where you can do that with ease, once you have that all set up. But interestingly, once we say, hey, Kashif, here's vacation, it doesn't matter what time, you
yeah.
will naturally gravitate back towards that night owl. So, audience, I want you to hear again genes are not deterministic. You can, Kashif, if he wanted to, could be a morning bird, but he knows he's not and he works within that. And that's, I would imagine, I won't speak for you, but I would imagine that's probably feels better for you.
So for the last year, I've been driving my son to school because now the kids go to two different schools because one's in high school.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I'm not gonna say that I want to, but I'm
Mhm.
saying that I've been doing it and I've adjusted. And so now I'm able to, so my clock has changed. But for sure, if it wasn't that, I would be back to my normal wiring, right?
Yeah. We have a similar gene presentation.
Yeah.
I'm a night owl and, most days of the week I can pretend to be a morning bird, but give me vacation. I am not going to bed until 4 in the morning. And
Yeah.
that's my preference, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, one really cool thing you did, which is, again, this is another area that we didn't know we were actually going to get an answer, and then you found it. Um, I would say one of the biggest issues people come to us with are thyroid issues.
Mm,
So whether
mm,
it's me
mm,
personally, whether it's a DNA company, whether it's like the work we research we do together, whatever it is, it's all thyroid seems to show up
mm-hmm,
everywhere, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
I mean, thyroid is the tissue itself is not so regenerative. It's hard to heal, so it's easy to get damaged. The
mm-hmm,
autoimmunity and that everyone's struggling with,
mm-hmm,
given the immune system being confused and overloaded with the toxic burden and all that, the
mm,
food that's causing the gut. So there's so many
yeah.
reasons.
Yeah.
But end of the day, thyroid struggles, right?
Mm-hmm,
So now you get this blood work around thyroid. It often doesn't help anything other
mm-hmm,
than the direct medication, which people will be on for decades.
yeah.
So you dug in and found a marker that actually helps support and the things that people feel like fatigue, etc., which are the early indicators of thyroid issues. So
Mhm.
what is that marker and how does it work?
Yeah, yeah. So we're looking at DIO2, which is part of the conversion system that's going to be making something that is inactive thyroid into active thyroid. Active thyroid being the thing that is going to be working on all your tissues and regulating your metabolism, regulating all the things, the energy that thyroid does. And we found a gene that looks at how good are you at converting from inactive, which is T4, to active, which is T3, something that the tissues can actually use. Okay. And so the interesting thing here, and I want to be very clear, if you're suboptimal here, and that's going to be a CC presentation, you have that reduced conversion, does that mean you're going to have thyroid issues? Absolutely not. But what it will change, I would say, is the vigilance you should have around thyroid issues, as well as, heaven forbid, you do have a thyroid issue. I would offer this should be presented to your doctor because, in my mind, it should shift or informs the medication the doctor gives you. Right. So, Kash, if we had talked about this, right? If someone goes to a doctor and their thyroid isn't working, a lot of the time doctors will give T4, right? They're giving that precursor in hopes that the body converts it into the active form. But you know this, you've seen this multiple times. That doesn't always work. There are people on T4 with documented thyroid issues that are like, nope, not helping me, as if I didn't even take it, right? And that's because that inability to convert. So this is one of the genes that says like if you have a thyroid problem, if you're on T4, probably not a great call for you because you're not converting it all that optimally to T3. So right off the bat, you should change that approach. You could do a combination of T3, T4, a desiccated thyroid, an armor thyroid. There's other options. So in my mind, this informs the prescription as well as, and to your point, right? Like we live in a world that burdens thyroid. We live in a world that is effectively setting the thyroid up for failure. And for those that are poor at the conversion, those are the people that I, as a doctor, would want to monitor more just in case they come to me and are starting to express thyroid symptoms. Right? I'd take those a lot more seriously. I'd take them a lot more specifically.
Yeah, the priorities for that person now change
Yep.
because they now know that the whatever we like you said the people are burdened with means so much more to the thyroid.
Yep.
Second, the solution, it's just a different problem to solve.
Yep.
So that's why,
Yep.
and this is why you have options like straight T4 or a blend or other products because people go through trial and error and
Yeah.
nothing's working. And then finally something starts to feel good and nobody knows why. And then, but rather than going through all that and
Yeah.
even the gaslighting that happens at that level, it's like you just know it's not
Yeah.
a this issue, it's a that issue, it's a conversion issue. That's I'm solving
Yeah.
the right problem finally, right?
Yeah.
And with precision, you actually feel good, and the outcome is quick, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and so funny you're saying talking about this sort of like conversion. There's a gene that you were talking about for conversion for certain nutrients, etc. That I know also you're working on adding, and I thought of it as one thing, but it also does other things, right? And
Mm.
it kind of expands that detox panel. And
Mm.
this gene around caffeine, but it also
Mm-hmm.
works on other toxins. So now, and I think one thing that DNA 360 test has done really well is used genetic insights around detox, inflammation, cellular health to support people
Mm-hmm.
at the root cause level, which most
Mm-hmm.
genetic tests don't look at, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now that's been expanded a little bit. So the sort of fun infotainment part of it is the the caffeine, right?
Yep.
But it also does so much more. So the CYP1A2 gene, what
Yeah.
are we going to learn about that?
Yeah, so CYP22, as Kashif is kind of alluding to, we know this largely as a gene that helps process caffeine. So people are either going to be a fast metabolizer, meaning they can quickly go through their caffeine, they can quickly detoxify their caffeine, or they're going to be a slow metabolizer. There's someone that when they get that caffeine, the caffeine's staying in the body for a lot longer because they're slower at getting rid of it. But what we also see, this is really linked to certain xenobiotics, right? So this will also help with detox of different xenobiotics, meaning again, if you're a fast metabolizer, you're going to get through that cleaning process a little bit quicker. And then, if you're a slow metabolizer, you're going to be unfortunately going through that process a little bit slower. And this also has a lot of impact towards estrogens as well. it is involved in some estrogen creation there. And so again, it's this, sometimes people are like, what is the better presentation? And in my mind, it's not better or worse, it's just different, right? If you're quick with getting rid of your caffeine, if you're quick with getting rid of your certain xenobiotics, right? You're also going to be a little bit quicker at making your estrogens, 2-hydroxy specifically. Not a lot compared to like 1A1, CYP1A1, but some. And then if you're on the slower side, you're going to be slower at creating those. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have so the hormone, so this gene is expanding several things. It's expanding that hormone map.
Yeah.
So we know this sort of the plumbing of hormones and where things
Yeah.
go. And now there's another layer to look at, like the exit, right?
Yeah.
It's expanding the diet map in terms of processing certain things like caffeine. And
Yeah.
we also see it processing drugs, but also nutraceuticals. So there's certain people that will say, hey, I took the supplement, I didn't feel anything,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
some people say that I can't handle supplements. And so now
Yeah.
finally get that answer, which
Hmm.
is there is a pathway through which
Hmm.
nutraceuticals are processed.
Hmm.
And yes, for some people, when you just follow the label, it might be too much.
Yeah.
And for some other people, follow label, it's not going to do much because you're a rapid
Hmm.
metabolizer. And so this one insight, anyone that's working with Krista or whoever on building a personal protocol, there's another layer of now I know, okay, here's the problem. Here's the product that was recommended. Here's what it says on the label. Is that the right amount for me?
Yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah.
well, again, trial and error, one size fits all, trying to get rid of that and just be precise.
Yeah, yeah, and this is one too, right? Like I think especially so audience, if you have the slower version of this gene, you're slower at clearing out things. A lot of people will ask me the question of like, well, how much caffeine can I have, right? And
Yeah.
remember that sometimes these genes are exercised, right? So first and foremost, people with this slow metabolism and they consistently drink a lot of coffee, they will have unfortunately worse cardiovascular outcomes. Okay. Why is that? Because they're keeping the caffeine in their body a lot longer. And what that caffeine is doing is it's jacking their blood pressure. Their blood pressure is going to be higher for 6 to 8 hours, depending on the person. Okay.
Mm,
And so we've actually seen that this gene, slower processes are tied to cardiovascular outcomes. So the next question, and this applies, this is kind of where I went with it. This also applies to the nutraceuticals and this applies to all the xenobiotics. The next question is, well, how much?
yeah.
Right. And I would say that's a very difficult question to answer because, especially with nutraceuticals, there's many enzymes involved in that. But my general answer is start slow and work your way up a little bit. And once you feel a bit of that resistance, right, to your point, that's where you stop. You almost take a step back.
Mm,
Yeah, because I think to your point, like, and this is part of why we created something like Black Label. Supplement products have a habit of dosing to larger people and dosing in big ways. And
yeah.
not everyone is A, a larger person, or B, someone that can take those big doses, right? Yeah.
And then you can also look at this the other way, which is we're talking about, okay, you've been researching these genes, we know what they do, we know more about what they do, here's what it might inform you. But then also the solution gets informed by the gene because we also know what may speed up the gene and increase its
Mhm.
activity. And now there's direction. So as opposed to just, so the other way around, we're looking at the
Mhm.
gene saying it affects caffeine,
Mhm.
detox to some degree. But you might also find that when I look at my hormones, it looks like my estrogen dominance and estrogen toxicity is a serious concern. I need to work on that. The
Mhm.
next step is what do I do?
Mhm.
Did you know that if you have the right foods, this CYP1A2 gene actually speeds up?
Mhm.
So that can
Yeah.
actually direct your habits in terms of not just what problem does it cause, but how do I use it to my advantage?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
what are the type of foods that actually speed it up?
Yeah, we're talking cruciferous vegetables, so the broccoli family. Think about broccoli, cabbage, kale, all those fun guys. So like especially when you talk about supplements, a lot of that will induce it are going to be those extracts. So those sulforaphanes, if I'm saying that correctly, those guys will help encourage this system along.
And this is where, in our recommendations, we'll often tell people hormones need support, take some dim.
Yeah.
Hormones need support. And it's like, well, why do I need broccoli for my hormones?
Hmm.
Because and a lot of people that will recommend this, like in the functional medicine world, they don't know. They just know that it's the right thing to do,
Yeah.
but they don't know why.
Yeah.
This is why the
Yeah.
expression of this gene increases, the activity increases, and now that exit, that pathway is open, and those toxic estrogens come out. right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really cool. It's not just about what does it do, but it's also how do you use it for what it does to support some other area that's not working well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
in terms of, I see there's a lot of questions here. I don't know if any of
Hmm.
those were answered. Hey, Christina, how you doing? So maybe we'll go through these.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do
Okay.
that. Let's do that.
There's some in the chat. Maybe we'll start with the Q&A box because
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
for
That
people
makes
to put them
sense.
in the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Sheila, does a DNA 360 check for genes that may predispose us to elevated lipoprotein A? And if one has a slightly elevated lipoprotein, so lipoprotein A, I think it's not a direct, it's more like a byproduct. But I don't know what do you think?
We do not currently have genes that look at that, but we in the future there will be some introductions there. But in regards to current levels, there is lab work that can look at your current LPA levels. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think in terms of it's more like why? Why would you have cardiovascular sort of stress? What's going on? Whether it's inflammation, whether it's
yeah,
plaque, whether it's cholesterol levels high, whether it's lipoprotein issues, like whatever it is, let's use the genes to inform what's causing inflammation as
yeah,
opposed to trying to isolate a marker, which is the medical answer,
yeah,
right? So there's an
yeah,
entire, and just, when I interrupted the call, you were talking about a new
yeah,
cardiovascular gene. So there's a lot that can be done there. Marianne,
yeah, yeah.
MLXIPLCC, triglycerides over 250. Do you have any suggestions beyond reducing alcohol and starches, sugars, or reduce? So now if we know that the
Hmm.
gene is suboptimal, would we take a different path in terms of how we deal with the issue?
Yeah, again, so MLXIPL is very specific to in the presence of surplus of carbohydrate shifting towards that triglyceride, right? It also will indirectly influence insulin. So if you're telling me those are really high, right, we do need to evaluate diet for that, as well as we need to evaluate how is insulin doing? How is insulin able to manage sugar load? And I would say like the beautiful thing about non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, depending on how far progressed you are, it's something that can be resolved for, right? There just has to be very significant diet and lifestyle. So, what I would suggest is you can bring that down. I would really truly look at sugars first, right, in your diet as well as insulin. I would also look to liver health. We want to assess any damage within the liver because if there is, we want to focus on that and help repair that, restore that, and be mindful that this is not stuff that will happen overnight. If heaven forbid, you're telling me those levels are high, you're looking for several months worth of work before you start to see some of that come down. I'd also really encourage fiber, right? Fiber is one of those really good things when we talk about cholesterols and fats and all that other fun thing that is very helpful to managing that. And so when we say fiber, I'm talking insoluble fiber and soluble fiber. Insoluble, think about like the shells of nuts and seeds and grains. Soluble, think about all the delicious root vegetable kind of plantain things like that. That's where your soluble fiber is going to be coming from. There's where I would be starting with that, right? But lab work would further guide what to be doing.
John's asking about UCP1. So responding to cold plunging,
Mm-hmm.
when you have optimal UCP1 thermoregulation, there's two layers, the benefit that you would derive and then the recovery. So Krista was talking about burning and burning hot. And why does cold plunging help you, for example, metabolic health and fat weight loss, but specifically fat loss, is because that cold is a calorie sucker, right? It pulls calories off of your body from the heat that you lose. And so if you're good at producing that heat, you're gonna lose more. Now, if your thermoregulation is off, not only do you not benefit as much, but it's also a bit too much stress, right? Especially if you're more estrogenized also. And
Mm-hmm.
so over time, it might actually have an adverse outcome.
Mm-hmm.
But for anyone, the mood and behavior benefit's going to be there. The Zen of the BDNF and the
Mm-hmm.
dopamine, that's always there. So just that's the one thing
Yeah.
to look out for is what it does with weight.
Yeah.
Um, Tanya, where do we look for the new genes? So now these genes are have been added,
Mm-hmm.
right? So correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a update required. So what's the difference between I know there was
Yeah.
an update for some people already have it. How does that work?
Yeah, so right now, are these new genes are released exclusively through the app. They're not currently available in the portal. They will be eventually available in the portal, but right now it's just through the app. Um, And so you do need the most up-to-date app version, right? So, as audience, you may need to update whatever app version you do have, and they will be automatically populated in there. We do have, if you have your notifications turned on, so your apps can update you, you will get notified when it has been when it is released. Okay, and in terms of where you're going to find it, I'm happy to kind of walk through each gene and which report you're going to be finding it in. So give me 1 second because I'm going to scroll through to make sure that we're totally right here. So MLXIPL, and this is that triglyceride one that we were talking. This is going to be in the cardiovascular section. You're going to find it in two reports. You're going to find it in the system summary. You're also going to find it in our report that talks about cholesterol. Okay. The next gene that we talked about, the DHCR7, and this is the guy that looks at that skin level, can you make cholesterol into vitamin D? This is going to be in the anti-inflammatory report. More specifically, it's going to be in the vitamin D profile. Okay, so once you pop into inflammation, pop into that vitamin D report, and you're going to see it in there. Okay. The next one, Cry One, the one that we were just talking, or sorry, Cry One, the sleep one, that chronotype. Are you a morning bird or you night owl? This is going to appear in the sleep section. It will be in the system summary. Okay. The next one, SIP1A2. This is the caffeine and all the supplements, all that fun stuff. You're going to find this in the detox, or sorry, the inflammation report. You'll see it in that summary section. Okay. UCP1, and this is the mitochondria one, the brown fat one. How much energy are you burning? That's going to be in your diet and nutrition, and that will be in the system summary section as well. Last but not least, DIO2. This is going to be found in hormones because we think of thyroid like a hormone, and it will be in the system summary section.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah.
And I know some people that maybe have the older version of the test
Mm-hmm.
need to retest, right?
Yeah, so the cutoff we kind of have is to for whose data we have all these gene information for. If you've taken your test January 1, 2023 or onwards, then we have this data for you. It's going to be automatically updated. If you took it December 31, 2022 or before that, we do not have this data. And so you will have to update your testing. And what I would ask the audience for those that have those older tests, stay tuned to both our announcements and emails, all that fun stuff. We're going to communicate to you how you can go about that alongside a few other exciting offers within that. So we're getting ready for people who have those older reports. We're thinking about you, right? DNA Company is a community. We care about our community. And so we'll make sure that you guys have access to this too.
Cool.
Yeah.
The new vitamin D gene,
Hmm.
what is the good allele and the bad allele? Just
Yeah.
look it up.
One moment, please. So those that are poor in converting cholesterol to vitamin D, right? Meaning like those that aren't going to get that access, that's going to be a GG. Those that are optimal, meaning they have that good conversion, that good access, it's going to be a TT.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heidi's saying, what do we do in rainy climate for morning, sunrise, sunset routine? So, if it's
Mhm.
rainy and cloudy, it does not look like nighttime. It still looks like daytime. The sun is powerful, right? It's still fully lit. You don't need a lamp outside, right? So there's sunlight. You may
Mhm.
not be getting, Florida sun, but there's sun. So it's still important to get out there. It's still important to expose yourself to it. And there's more than you think. Now, that being said, there's things like vitamin D lamps for people that live in climates that are just, for example, far north where there's very little window of sunlight. This is why vitamin D supplementation can be important for some people, right? There's things like using red light in the evening to signal to your circadian rhythm what's going on. So red light bulbs, for example. Um, there's things like movement, low intensity in the movement in the evening will also signal to your body what's going on. So there's other ways to do it, but just know that cloudy doesn't mean no sun. It just means no sunburn, right? Uh,
Yeah.
Janet,
Agreed.
is there a heat intolerance with multiple sclerosis? If there's a heat intolerance with MS, is UCP involved?
I am not aware of that. That being said, I haven't done specific literature dive into that, so I do not have an answer for that one. But Janet, if you want to reach out, I can do a quick dive and let you know if there's any research on that. Yeah.
Which allele for lark versus night owl?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Give me 1 second because I don't want to misquote anything here. It's
Sure.
alphabet soup. So we're talking about cry one to get your morning, your lark versus your night owl. And if you have a CC presentation, okay, that means you're going to have more that night owl presentation. You're going to be that night owl. If you're TT, that is more the lark or the neutral. If you're a combination, if you're a CT, these people tend to be a dealer's choice, but will side a little bit more towards the night owl side.
So Katie's saying, can you please explain how vitamin D works as a hormone? So we always hear this that vitamin D is not a
Mm.
nutrient, it's a hormone. So why do we define it as that, and what does that mean?
Yeah, so what we're looking at is there are a lot. One of the genes we look at, VDR, is a vitamin D receptor, right? And what happens is vitamin D goes into that receptor and it sends off a signal, and tissues change in response to it. Sometimes that tissue is your muscles, sometimes that tissue is your brain, your immune cells. It has, when we think about hormones, we think about actors, things that go into the body and change the body, change how the body is functioning. And so vitamin D happily fits into that category. It attaches to a receptor, and based on the tissue that that receptor is on, a lot of the cellular activity is going to change. The physiologic activity is going to change. So
Hmm.
that's why we group it into that space. There's academic debate. Not everyone's happy about calling it a hormone, but I think by and large it has been accepted as that. Yeah.
Yeah, it acts as that. And you have to ask about when there's academic debate, what is the motivation? If everybody had enough vitamin D, there'd be a lot less problems, right?
Yeah.
So
I 1,000,000%. Yeah.
yeah. And so it's, you have to think about who is that a problem for.
Yeah.
Madeline, when I was in my 20s, I went to bed early and got up normal around 7 a.m. Now I'm a night owl. How is it possible my genes do not change to have a different circadian cycle? So there's a couple thoughts there. One thing, your genes don't change. So the cycle is what it is, right? What changes is context. And when I was young in my 20s, I went to bed early, da da da, and woke up. So what changed in your context?
Mm.
I can also tell you that, today's major sleep disruptor is our stress and cortisol, right? We live in fight or flight, and that's going to totally change
Mm.
your circadian rhythm and your sleep quality. And
Mm.
so and as you age, your gut is breaking down, the serotonin production isn't there anymore. As you age, the receptor. So it's also a question of,
Mm.
why doesn't Alzheimer's show up in 15-year-olds? Right? Is because you're running at optimal biology, even though the
Mm.
genes might not be the best in certain areas. You have
Mm.
full mitochondrial capacity,
Yeah.
low inflammation, low toxic burden. You just haven't been around long enough.
Yeah.
And so now the things start to poke out and show you their problems later in life, because that's when the mitochondria deplete. There's not as much cellular energy, inflammation is higher. And so the failures start to show, right? Um, Sheila, are there any presentations of the DI2 that would predispose someone to thyroid cancer?
Hmm. Sorry, say that again, Kashif?
Any presentations of the DIO2 that could predispose someone to thyroid cancer?
Not to my awareness, no.
Yeah, I think it's more about the
Hmm.
conversion, right?
Yeah.
With suboptimal DIO2 CC, does this mean T4 goes to reverse T3 or just stay? Yeah, so there's less conversion, so there's less
Mm.
production. So
Yeah.
there's higher T4, lower T3. Or yeah, exactly. Yeah. What are the alleles for DIO2?
For DO, so CC is going to be that reduced conversion, and TT is going to be the more optimal side. Yeah. And then the
Uh,
CT sits closer to optimal, but not the greatest.
the MLXIPL gene, is that in the raw data or just in the app?
That would be in the app.
So not okay. So Anita, you have to go into the app to find it.
Mhm.
Um, Sheila, I don't have a thyroid, had it removed due to cancer, and have been on synthetic drugs. She's been on levothyroxine for 20 years. Presentation. Da, da, da. So you're still producing hormones. It's just, your adrenals and other areas have taken over. So the gene instruction doesn't change because the thyroid. Remember, the instruction didn't come from your thyroid; it came from your DNA, right? So different context for sure, but the instruction is the same. The genes haven't changed, right? So yeah, the conversion issue is still there.
Mm.
Metalin, does the CYP1A2 gene also influence how you process catecholamines and epinephrine? Um, Epinephrine, I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No,
No,
I don't think so.
no.
No. There's some methylation genes like COMT. Um, yeah, I would think that's more function of methylation. Christina, Dr. Krista, you have such good explanations. You're not telling what allele is fast or slow. So we've been going through that. So the intention
Yeah.
was to tell you about the genes, right?
Mm.
But yeah, your app's going to tell you. Your app tells you optimal, suboptimal, right? So you
Mm.
don't need to remember it tonight. You just need to understand what the genes do to be able to get into the app and know what you're looking for, right? Um, Mayor, does DIM support toxic estrogen in menopause? Yeah, so DIM, now depending, is it, and this is where it's very important to have your DNA report in front of you. The CYP1B1 pathway drives 4-OH, and the CYP3A4 pathway drives 16-OH. And they get cleared in similar ways, but also different ways. So DIM helps both. Sulforaphane also supports the 4-OH. Then there's other things like calcium diglucarate that support the 16-OH, right? So it's also just being specific, but DIM will support both for sure. David, are the new genes within the same reports like cardiovascular in the app? Yeah, so they're in the sections that Krista, I think this question was probably asked before you said all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so now you guys know where to look. They're in the
Mhm.
reports, right?
Mhm.
Can something be done for plaque? Well, the medical answer is no. The
Mhm.
functional biohacking answer is there's certain peptides that will break down arterial plaque. K2 is the tool that you're supposed to use to mitigate plaque. A blend of MK4 and MK7, two different versions of K2. But there are peptides, for example, like trizepatide, which are known for weight loss, that if you take it a microdose, have been shown to break down arterial plaque, right? Not saying it's a prescription, but there are tools for sure. I would suggest anyone dealing with something like that, that is a diagnosis representing symptom, to work with the coach on the DNA company side,
Mm.
because whenever it's like a symptomatic disease centric, you want to go past the general, I read my report and I'm going to take these supplements. You probably want someone's guidance because that's a major deal, plaque in your arteries. And the good news, it's workable. So let's get
Mm.
someone that knows what they're doing to work on it.
Mm.
John, what were the thyroid genes and when will there be an update to clues? Oh, when is this update happening? Is it already live?
Yes, it should be. Yeah.
Oh, so if you go into your app, the genes are already there. The thyroid gene was the DIO2, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so there was one gene, DIO2. Now keep in mind your other hormone genes also speak to thyroid health, and other genes in other sections, like your detox genes, speak to thyroid health, but they're not thyroid genes. They are the root cause reason why people might have
Mhm.
thyroid issues. And so that's another area you probably want someone to look at it for you.
Mhm.
Vicky, so regarding dosing, adenosyl hydroxy B12 for a child was recommended. How much, how often? So, and this is for an autistic child. So, I don't know what you think, Dr. Krista. I think it's based on body weight.
Based on body weight, also based on current serum levels too, right? I'd want to see blood work because we need to know where we're working from.
Yeah, it's tricky with a child, especially when you're dealing with autism. First of all, you're on the right path. Supporting methylation is a great thing to do
Yeah,
for
agreed.
for autism, and the B12 does that. But yeah, I would say blood work and speak to someone, right?
Mhm.
Mary, I have reasons to take a supplement like broccoli, but I heard Justin say if you have a fast comp, what you said about fast metabolism, I am the fast one, so I should not take a sulfur supplement. So if you have a fast comp, it's already helping you with the estrogen detox. I think that's what Justin was alluding to, right? So it's like less of a concern because you're already doing the job. Um, the other part about not taking a sulfur supplement, I don't know, Dr. Chris, do you have any thoughts there?
Not taking a sulfur supplement based on the
Uh, Based
CYP1A2.
on having fast methylation genes, um, I haven't heard that.
I have not either. I think like when we talk about methylation and COMT, right, and one of the other systems or one of the other pathways that's involved in that does use sulfur and kind of supports with glutathione production. So I would imagine that's what he's getting at. But COMT wouldn't necessarily influence that. I'd think more we're talking detox health there and
Yeah.
different things. Yeah.
I think he's saying that your body's already doing a good job. So if there's 10 things you got to
Yeah.
work on, maybe this is not the number one priority, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
Right. So,
That's wise.
but support it if you can. So
Hmm.
Sheila's saying, I can see the new genes on the raw reports, but not on the actual reports in the app. Uh,
Hmm. Okay.
so if like, okay, anyone that's having like app issues or
Yeah.
report issues, maybe we'll just drop an email in the chat and just
Yeah.
connect with, and let's see, maybe that was already done. But
Yeah.
anyone with like, the app doesn't work, can't figure it out, can't see report. Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
Look, you're going straight to the top, CEO at the DNAcompany.com. This is a VIP party today.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So just email CEO at the DNA company and any app issues, etc. We'll get that sorted.
Mm-hmm.
Anita, never feel supplements. I have poor vitamin absorption, detox, methylation, but I'm fast and comped, MAO, glucuronidation. So shuttle things out fast. Anita's interpreting like a mini geneticist. Does it get stuck and unused because of swappable methylation and I don't use it or higher amounts needed? Um, Dr. Crystal, what do you think about that?
Yeah. So I guess my first question is, Anita, what are you supplementing and what are you trying to support? It sounds a little bit like mood and behavior and or detox from maybe some hormones from what I'm reading. And so I guess my first question would be, what are you trying to address? What are you trying to feel? And then I'd ask the question like, it's going to be a combination of genes and which agents are you using, right? As well as if you're saying poor vitamin absorption too, I'd also want to check in on gut health or how you're delivering that. So I think there's a few different things at play there, Anita. And if you want some support from some clinicians, don't hesitate to reach out to us because it sounds like the answer is going to be a little bit more tricky than just do more or do less. Yeah.
You are right, Anita. Like there's some clearance pathways that are quick,
Yeah.
right? And look up your SIP 19 A, or sorry, is it 19A2?
A1.
A1.
Yeah.
And so look up that and then so also take a look there. But yeah, it's also to Dr. Chris's point, gut health is paramount to supplements working, right? Your
Mhm.
nervous system being resolved is paramount to supplements working. So, and that might even be the
Mhm.
order. Make sure that you're regulated in your nerves. Make sure you've done work to have a healthy
Mhm.
gut terrain. And then you might start talking about, hey, what are the right supplements for me, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, the questions in the Q&A are done. I'm just gonna see what's over here. Sylvia's talking
Mhm.
about vascular vein, varicose veins. Okay, so gene related to vascular grade or quality, let's say, is 9p21. That's
Mhm.
going to be in your cardiovascular report. There's other contributors to overall cardiovascular health, but if you're looking for like the actual hardware, now varicose veins, that's a different thing. We often see, when there's estrogen dominance, fat production, this rapid, low grade vasculature because your fat also has veins in it, right? That's not the only reason, but it is one of the reasons. But not related to, well, actually, I could say somewhat related to quality too. Um, okay, now any other questions? We can drop them into the app, the Q&A section, just to make sure we don't leave you guys without your questions answered. Um, Anything else? I can
Yeah.
scroll through this.
No.
Let's-
Yeah, Kashif, it's been so absolutely wonderful having you here in this webinar. It's a delight to have one of the co-founders because I like the way
awesome.
you, yeah, no, I
Sure.
like your constant curiosity around this, but you have exceptionally great questions when it comes to application. Your brain works in really fun ways when you hear these new genes. It's been a delight.
Well, I've had
Yeah.
women in my life that tell me my brain doesn't work. So that's a
No
pleasure to
comment.
hear.
No comment.
So that's nice to hear. But yeah, I love talking to you about this stuff because it's we get to jam on really cool things that are really going to change the report.
Yeah.
Once we get into actually applying this, I'm excited about that, which is I work on people clinically, and
Mhm.
now that I get to apply this stuff and see the another layer that we can dig into, right? That's gonna be
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now Mary's saying, going back to broccoli, I guess my question is there any scenario where taking it would be detrimental?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I like the one thing that that would encourage is it would encourage a bit more estrogen production. It's more favorable estrogen. It's the 2-hydroxy. That said, you might want to be, looking at your staging in life, right? Like especially are you menopausal and kind of other factors that you want to consider in regards to that up to estrogen. I don't think that would be detrimental to be plain, but there's always going to be health history questions that could play into that.
Yeah, a lot of people take broccoli, they don't even know what it's for, right?
Yeah.
Sulforaphane in general will help with detox and lower inflammation.
Hmm.
And, so
A happy little miracle guy.
yeah, it is. It's awesome. So a lot of people just take it as their general detox tool,
Yeah.
which is fine,
Yeah.
right? So, and I haven't heard any of those people complain about issues coming out of
Yeah.
that, right? Um, oh, Mary's saying I wanted to take it for the BDNF. So BDNF, I don't know if that's the right tool. There's other things you would do, unless there's something I'm missing, Dr. Chris said.
I'm like, I mean, beyond general wellness, I'm not aware of a direct connection to BDNF.
Yeah, I don't think so. I
Yeah.
think so. What you might be thinking of, so this is a broccoli sprout extract.
Hmm.
There's a coffee extract, the whole fruit coffee extract. Maybe that's what you're thinking of. So the
Yeah.
the berry that grows on the coffee plant,
Hmm.
that supplement that comes from that will help you with BDNF,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's
Yeah.
what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Mickey saying for fast CYP1A2, if cruciferous vegetables speed the enzyme, would this be a good thing for CYP1A2? So yeah, so Mickey, for example, Mickey, your specific health concern, I've spoken to Mickey before.
Mm.
This is an area where, yeah, for you, it would be really good to speed it up. Um, so yes, if it's already fast, I guess the question is, if it's already fast, am I speeding it up more? Is that even useful? Yeah, it's a clearance pathway, right? What it may not be useful for is a off-the-shelf supplement dosage where you now might not be enough for you, right? So with good, there's bad. You're speeding up, which means you're speeding up for everything, right? So
Yeah.
just understand what your priorities are.
Mm.
Trevor, I've not had any test yet. What test do you recommend is the best for inflammation and overall health? So, Trevor, this is where the purpose of the DNA 360 test is to understand the functional insights on your genes, which then can direct every other decision you make, right? So it's not about I took a blood test and today some marker stands out, but now what? I don't know why, right? So if you understand your innate broken biology, which systems aren't working, then you don't need to worry about the problems. It's like this, my detox system doesn't work. I'm making too many toxic hormones. I'm stuck in anxiety because of the way my brain is wired. You already know where the block is and you just work on the block. So that's the purpose, Trevor, of the DNA testing is to show you which biology is working well, which you can ignore, and the stuff that's not working well, which is your exact priority. And if you start to do that, then you don't need to worry about how do I test for inflammation? The inflammation came because this biology wasn't working, right? That's the purpose.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Angela, with all these new genes always be updated to our profile and app, how long will we have the Kashif 6-month program? So, Angela, the program you're working with me on, it sounds like that, yes, is 6 months. The app is yours for life, right? So you
Mhm.
bought the test, you have your DNA data. There's going to be a time, some few months from now, where Dr. Chris and I are going to have another call like this saying, guess what, new genes, right? And so that's going to keep happening, and that's for life.
Yeah.
So whatever's been tested, any new insights around those will keep being populated. So that's going to keep coming. Michelle, thanks for the call. Pleasure, Michelle. Any applications of the new genes we haven't asked that stand out? Yeah, so is there anything we missed around the new genes?
Any applications that we did not call out? Oh, the only one I can think of is going to be in regards to Cry One. So this is the guy that we said will determine if you're a morning bird, night owl, and it will also, so if you sit more on that night owl side, we see a lot more dysregulation in circadian rhythm, right? You know how I talked about that influences how long you're sleeping, how well you're sleeping to a certain extent. And so that's also very much tied to both mental health, mood, and metabolic weight outcomes, meaning if you sit on the night owl side of things, you're a little bit more at risk towards low mood and a little bit more at risk towards metabolic disruption in our society, right? That means a little bit of weight gain. So it's not a guarantee, right? Having that night owl gene does not mean you will be that way, but it would have me looking at that a little bit more because we do know it influences. But I think that's not because the gene directly does, it just influences sleep. And if you're not sleeping well, mood's going to be low, weight's going to be high. Yeah.
Mary saying, how do I know when my DNA 360 was performed? I think anyone that has the digital portal is the new version, right? The old version was the paper reports. Is that right?
So, um, yeah, the old version was paper reports, and that tends to be a lot of our, 2022 and before,
Yeah.
2023 and afterwards is all the digital. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mary, if you're logging into the portal, then you're okay.
Well, so Mary, for clarity though, the genes that the six that we just talked about are not yet in the portal. They're
That's
just in the
yeah.
app. That's why
Yeah.
we keep pushing people towards the app.
Yeah.
They're just in the app. Okay.
Dirk. Hey,
Eventually they
Dirk.
will be in the portal, but not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Dirk in a while.
Oh, hey, Dirk.
Dirk, oh, I just lost this question. Where did it go? How many functional genes? What's the total number of genes? Was it 96?
So today we're just focusing on the six that we're releasing. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I think
Yeah.
he's asking how many in total are there?
Oh, how many in total? Now it's going to be 78. 78 or 79. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Heidi, what to do for PCOS, no menstruation. So, so Heidi, there isn't one answer. There's multiple answers, and this is the whole purpose of why people test, is to find out which biology is broken. So you could go through medical answers for years, which young women often do, trying and trying and trying. Nothing works, nothing works, nothing works, and then all of a sudden something starts to work. And that should have been what you did the 3 years prior to when you started that trial and error journey. This is the whole point of the testing, is to tell you what biology doesn't work. For example, your daughter may be making some toxic androgens that are causing inflammation, right? And we don't even go there because we don't even think about testosterone being associated to young women, but that could be the case. So there isn't one answer, but the good news is there are answers. We just need to test to know what's going on in your body.
Hmm.
Sylvia, 9P21 vein quality. If yours is AA, assuming that might not be good, limit. So Sylvia, rather than looking at the letters, the report actually calculates three separate locations on the gene to give you a net,
Hmm.
and it gives you numbers of 0 to 2, 3, or 4 to 6.
Hmm.
And the higher the number, the worse it is, right? And
Yeah.
so what we're counting are the G alleles. So the A
Mhm.
that you see are the ideal, but you need to look for 6 A's, right? There's 6 of them in total. So the easiest thing to do is go to the report and it'll just tell you the number of G's, and the more G's, the more that's a priority for you. Does your test include all the methylated gene testing that Gary Brecka's 10X does? So it
Mhm.
does include a methylation system, but we think that there's some crossover, but there's also some that we do and some that they do that are different because our beliefs on what are important. Remember, um, Dr. Krista, the coaches, the doctors of the DNA company work on deep clinical concerns. They work on the problems that other people couldn't solve,
Mhm.
right? Gary Brecka is dealing with more general health and wellness. Here's what your supplements look like, right? And so we don't necessarily agree on what genes are important, but we are testing for the ones that we think are important. That's for sure, right? And so I would say for the most part redundant, and there's some differences, a couple differences. What does Dr. Krista have a practice? Where does so Dr. Krista
Yeah.
is the chief genius officer of the DNA company. So she would find her through the DNA company.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. They are not in my app. You may have to refresh, I guess. Maybe, oh, download the newer version. You have to update the app. Go into your Apple store and click update, just like any other update for any app. When you update, you'll get the new version.
Mhm.
Daughter hasn't tested yet. So Heidi, it's important. Whether it's a hormone test, whether it's a DNA test, do something to test what's going on. The only difference is hormone tests will only give you hormones.
Mhm.
DNA test will give you everything, or maybe it's not hormones, maybe it's something else, right? Um, Mary, I'm sorry, what was the sleep gene again? My phone died. I just got on the app. It was
Yeah.
CRY1, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Cry one.
Will cheat sheets be updated to reflect the new genes? Yeah, Sharda. So cheat sheet is something that I create. And yes, we're going to be adding those eventually. I would say before the end of the year.
Nice.
If you were to sign up for the DNA 360 test, does that include evaluation sessions? No, the test is designed to be self-serve. And then there's various levels of programs depending how much help you need. And that's where you can, I would say we can drop the email in here and who was it? Sorry, Trevor, just email and you can talk to someone, about what that looks like, right? The app is a DNA company app. Susan, you download the DNA company app just like you would download any other app. And the new genes are in there.
Mhm.
Are you having any more signups for 360 and evaluation sessions for explaining it? So from what I understand, it's like the DNA test stands alone. And if you need time, you have to book that, right?
Mhm. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you would email the office and
Yeah.
uh find out how to work with a practitioner, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We toss that into the chat for you. So that's client care. Or sorry, not client care. If you're looking to book a session, feel free to email us directly at ceo@thednacompany.com. Yeah.
Derek, oh, we have a second vote here for a chief genius officer from Derek.
Well, that's very kind because I know Dirk's pedigree and it's quite high. So
Yeah.
that's a very
I think you
kind there,
need
Dirk.
3 votes in total to get nominated officially, from what I
Sweet.
understand. Yeah.
I love it. Audience, step up. I've always championed for Chief Nerd. I'm just putting it out there. So if someone wants to counter this vote and say Chief Nerd, I'll love it.
Arden saying 9P21 is 4G. Should I take calorie? Arterisol is a good solution,
Yeah.
for sure. There's a company called Zymogen that makes something called Diovax, which is similar to Arterisol. It's just a little cheaper. Arterisol is like the OG. They're the first guys that
Mm.
created the solution, right? Sheila,
Cool. I
thank
actually
you.
didn't know that. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
very similar formulation. It's Arterisol is a pricey product, but it's also a great product.
Hmm.
So, just try to find a solution because some people say it costs a lot.
Yeah. No, love it.
Sheila, thank you for building. Oh, no, pleasure.
Hmm.
Absolutely changed our family's life. Son is
Yeah.
on the spectrum. He's thriving. Incredible, Sheila. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
also, I mean, Sheila did the work, right? A lot of people will buy a report, shove it in the drawer, listen to the next thing, and go on to like Sheila
Yeah.
actually did the work, right?
Yeah.
And that's so kudos to her too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. This may be that many creative genius types, like musicians, artists, and dropped a certain name, tend to be more night owl types.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's nobody around to distract you, right? Kids are asleep, everyone's
Yeah.
gone. Okay. DNA company app does not show up in Apple. Is it
Huh.
called the DNA company or what is it called? Do you know?
No, it's called the DNA Way app.
Oh, sorry.
And
Yeah.
what we'll do, no, that's okay. That's okay. What we'll do is, Vanny, if you can drop the plugs into the chat again, we will absolutely. So Susan, what we'll do is we're going to put that back into the chat so that you can click.
Yeah.
You don't even have to search for it. Yeah. There we
There you
go.
go. So Susan, just click on that. It's both Android and Apple.
Yeah.
And anyone who already has the app, go into your app store and just update it, the latest version, right?
Hmm.
You'll probably need to do that. And then you'll have the new genes in there.
Yeah.
Okay, we've been through all the thoughts and questions.
There we go.
Anything else?
Yeah. Yeah. There we go.
Oh, Angela, it's called Diovax. Diovax. There's also Cardio Miracle. I don't know, Dr. Chris, do you guys use that at all?
Not really, not
No?
as much. Yeah, yeah, I think because yeah, not as much.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
you want to be like certain, just take Arterisol,
yeah,
You can
yeah,
experiment with other stuff, but Arterisol we know does the job, right?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
quite
Beth,
wonderfully so. Yeah.
Beth is here too. Sister back post multiple strokes. Yeah,
Hmm.
uh, Beth's sister's had a crazy journey, but has improved a lot. Shalina has a question. App says we had an issue retrieving data. Is that being worked on?
Yeah, yeah. So yes, if you want to, I believe we tossed an email into the chat. If you want to report specifics, I think you can report specifics to client care. Otherwise, the answer is yes. We are absolutely working on that.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
Sheila.
I think Cash, everyone has loved having you here. Kashif's being very modest insofar as every time someone is saying, Kashif, we're so glad you're here, he's completely skimming over those comments. So I will out him because I can see the comments as well. And so Kashif, I will be honest, it's been absolutely wonderful to have you here. And our audience is very clearly echoing that. So thank you for the
Well,
time
thank
and the
you
thought
guys.
and the passion. Yeah, because you are the co-founder here, right?
Yeah, and
Brought
that was
this.
fun. Yeah.
Spoken like a true entrepreneur.
Yeah. Krista can tell you about the co-founding day. She saw it.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
watched,
yeah,
she watched it happen.
yeah.
Pleasure. Okay, so thoughts on Berkeley Life. I think that's that water filter, right? Is it?
Uh, no, they do a nitric oxide support,
Oh,
and
I'm thinking of
yeah,
the
it's a
Berkeley. Sorry, the
beet
Berkeley.
extract. It's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Okay, nitric oxide. Yeah, and there's also N101. If you
Hmm.
look up Dr. Nathan Bryan, N101
Hmm.
stuff is
Yeah,
great too.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, okay, all right. So, any other thoughts, or are we good?
No, I think we're good. And yeah, someone's commenting that the Berkey filter is for
Yeah,
water. I
Berkeley.
use
Sorry,
that one.
yeah,
I don't know per se if it's the best, but I adore my Berkey.
yeah, yeah.
All right, audience. It was so wonderful to have you here this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all the joy that you have. And Kashif, thank you so very
Pleasure.
much for joining us as well. It's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah.
And we'll see you guys on the next
Okay.
update.
Yeah.
All right.
Au revoir,
Thanks,
mes amis.
everybody. Have a great week. Thanks,
Yeah.
Cash.